7:12 now, let's play two. Our first guest joins us from time to time talking about Connecticut history, especially some of the odd, quirky characters who have been famous and given some character to the Nutmeg State over the years and even centuries. Michael Bilava joins us this morning to talk about one of the most unusual and now forgotten baseball players in state history, Bridgeport-born James ORourke. Who was this character?
James ORourke is a fascinating, Connecticut native. He was born in East Bridgeport in 1850, and he grew up in the shadow of the factories in the city, playing baseball. His prowess in the game was so well known.
Is he in the Hall of Fame?
Yes, yep, that's his Hall of Fame
like
pack. His prowess was so well known locally that the Middletown Mansfields, they were a pro team in the National Association. Their manager came down to sign James, and eventually he would go on to play for the National League, the Boston Red Stockings. That's where we get the Boston Red Sox from today. He got the very first hit in National League history.
You're kidding.
April 22nd, 1876.
I had no idea. Now, by the way, thank you for this glove that what is this, for shoveling snow?
That's what it looks like. It's a workman's glove style baseball glove about the 1880s.
This is what they wore in the field, compared to, and this was a ball. This is a vintage era baseball?
That's just a modified glove, a workman's glove, and the ball is called a lemon peel ball.
Yeah,
it has the one piece of cloth, and the stitching all meets on the top, as opposed to a modern baseball.
Isn't that interesting? Yeah, and then compared to this guy here, so I'm just going to hold this up for the, obviously we have that difference. This is the kind they play in major leagues right now, and of course this is the glove. Or very typical.
You can see how large the stitching is. There's much more protection.
Much more protection.
Yeah. And that was in the 1880s. Prior to that, when ORourke first came up playing, they did not wear gloves.
Right, it was all
barehanded baseball.
Yeah, that's sporting now, isn't it? Now, I understand that this guy was a pretty good negotiator, too.
He absolutely was. When he went on, his career was so outstanding, and he was one of the greatest, probably top 5 known players of the 19th century. When the New York Giants wanted to boost their roster, they invited James ORourke to play for New York National League. And he said fine, made him the highest paid player of his day. But as an extra line there in his contract, he asked to be that the Giants pay for his Yale education, which they gladly did.
Smart guy.
Oh, he graduated.
And he became a lawyer as well, did he not? So he's an Ivy Leaguer, a great ball player, and he used that to become a lawyer along the way, the education. But I understand that he was a bit of a dilettante. He couldn't decide what to do for a living. He wanted to so he played baseball until he's, what, 60 years old or so?
Jeff, he did everything, for the benefit of the Bridgeport community and Connecticut. He went on and he played his last pro game with the the New Haven White Wings in 1912. He was 62 years old, and he caught a complete 9-inning game.
Wow, like that's Satchel Paige kind of numbers in terms of age, right?
Yes.
Now, how did he got the title, the Godfather of New England baseball?
After his days in the majors, he tried umpiring, and that did not work. He was a really down-to-earth, fine fellow, a gentleman, and the razzing that he took was very dangerous in that era. So he retired, stepped back from umping, and returned to Bridgeport and created the Naugatuck Valley League, and which eventually would spawn the Eastern League, which lasted until the Great Depression for decades. Without his influence, Connecticut and big parts of New England would not have had minor league ball for half a decade.
So it was bare-knuckle umpire abuse back in those days,
gosh,
too.
yes.
By the way, this uniform top that I'm wearing right now, how vintage or how accurate is this to something he would have worn?
It's very accurate. It dates to his return in Bridgeport around the turn of the last century, about 1900, 1906, as a member of the Bridgeport Orators.
I love this.
His minor league team in Bridgeport.
This is classic. I love it. By the way, how come this is the first time I've heard of him, and maybe for other people, too?
Lots of folks will ask that question, and I'll put it into a context. It'd be the same as if in the future, in the not so distant future, people had never heard of Mickey Mantle. He was at that level of play. And over just time that his name faded, while others, for good reasons too, were preserved. But he deserves to be on top of the list of great American baseball players.
Does he have any living descendants in the area, do you know?
Yes, he has family both in Fairfield, and also a very dear friend of mine, Paul Conan. His great-grandson lives just over the border in Newburgh, New York.
Now, we're not going to give their addresses so you don't go bother them, but people can learn more about Mr. ORourke by your book here, right?
Yes, of course.
And what is it?
It's entitled Bridgeport Baseball, and it looks at the life of orator Jim and baseball in the entire Bridgeport community.
Outstanding. Michael Balava, you never cease to interest and
Well, thank
amaze and entertain, I might say, too.
Thank you very much, Jeff.
All right. Oh, and you were saying something about a pin, real
You know,
quick.
I have a pin for you that
thank
it was
you.
designed by my wife, Janice.
Oh, it's beautiful.
And it was presented to celebrate the O'Rourke
Tight shot,
statue,
but-
which stands outside the ballpark at Harbor Yard in downtown Bridgeport.
I'm going to have to go take a look one of these days. Look at that. Your wife, so Janice designed this.
Yes, and one of the photographs that were shown on screen, Barry Larkin reread the O'Rourke Hall of Fame plaque at this summer's rededication for so many ball players because of war travel restrictions were not officially recognized back in the 40s when O'Rourke was elected into the Hall of Fame.
Wow,
So,
I love the story.
Yeah, there's a lot going on that's still, history, but still very timely about James O'Rourke.
I love history, and God knows I love baseball. So put them together, it's like two great tastes that taste great together.